Hello folks, shintigercurl here, that dude in the straw hat, bringing you yet another awesome video. Now, as some of you are aware, I do have a small micro series where I read the latest chapter of One Piece live on camera for all to see and view. Now, I've had a few people ask me if I would do this for, people ask me if I would do this for any other manga, specifically for one of the big three that's still active, Bleach. Now, contrary to a lot of people who watched Bleach don't know this, or pretty much are unaware of this, but Bleach is still going on, despite the anime series has just been canceled. The manga is still going on. It is in its final story arcs. That's right. The entire series is wrapping up, but because of how Taikubo's pacing and compressing of the titles of his stories, it comes at a snail's pace. Like an entire chapter could be dedicated to a single conversation between two characters, or a single battle, which is like an entire fight can be stretched out for weeks, if not months, but could translate to be a very short fight. Now, I have considered this. Now, before I actually answer this, here's a recap of what you Bleach fans who have been watching the anime but can't or are unable to read the manga, so you have no idea what's going on. So, basically put, here's how things go. Alright, Ichigo got his powers back after the end of the Fullbringer arc, which I try very hard to forget. He goes about his daily life as a substitute Soul Reaper with his powers, killing hollows and such. Then he receives word from his hollow friend, Neliel, from the Espada, that turns out that Hueco has been conquered, completely, utterly. All the remaining Espada who survived the Winter War are either dead or captured. And it turns out that the people who conquered it were an army of Quincy's. They're called the Steinrenner. I'm sorry if I'm messing up these names, but they're hard German words and I can't really get them out. So anyway, the Steinrenner sent an invitation to Ichigo to join forces with them for their final war against the Soul Society. Needless to say, Ichigo and his friends head to Hueco to try to offer aid to them. Ichigo gets trapped inside of this weird little cage by one of the Steinrenner, while the rest of them go off into the Soul Society to wreak utter havoc. Now keep in mind there are only 26 Steinrenners with a lot of lower echelon officers. The Steinrenners each are based around a letter of the alphabet with their name and a portion of what their powers could be. Now the leader of this holy army is a man named Yhwach or Judabach or however you want to pronounce it. And he's an obscenely powerful Quincy. And now you have to understand something. For those of you who don't know, Quincy's are people who can manipulate reishi or spiritual particles to create weapons and all sorts of matter. They basically manipulate the matter around them, the spiritual matter around them. And what is the Soul Society made primarily of? Reishi or spirit particles. So 26 of them were able to inflict a tremendous amount of damage. So far to the point where thousands upon thousands of Soul Reapers are being killed. And what's more, members of the Steinrenners can steal bankais. So many of the captains get their bankai stolen by Steinrenners. Most notably, I think, Captain Hitsugai gets his stolen, as well as, I think Byakuya gets his stolen, and a few others. But they are massively, massively unable to fend these guys off. Then apparently Yhwach has been looking for people he called war potentials, people with exceptional powers that might tip the balance of the war to or against them. And one of them is Kenpachi Zaraki. Kenpachi kills 3 of them outright, easily. He killed one because he was talking too much, and he killed another one because he thought he was the strongest ever. And so Kenpachi faces Yhwach directly and gets his ass handed to him. He's not dead, he's just got his ass beat. Now, this is one of the few times where Captain General Yamamoto Genryu Sai, or Shikakune, actually gets serious. Now, before this whole thing started, he was accosted by a group of the Steinbrenners in his own room, and there's a badass little portion that happens here. All right, he's chilling in his room, and then a bunch of the Quincy's come in, and he's like, "It was foolish of you to leave this room unguarded." And he's like, "What makes you believe this room is unguarded? It is guarded, isn't it? It is guarded. Like, we didn't run into any guards. I'm here." Young old man Genocide is like, "I don't need guards. I'm in the room. Fuck you." So his lieutenant Sakubi gets killed in the resulting battle, and it turns out Sakubi had Bankai. It's revealed in his backstory that he indeed learned Bankai, which is like a storm-based Bankai, and actually gave one of Yamamoto one of his scars, which also helps to his name Shigekune, which is like 2 scars or something like that. So anyway, he dies and gets his Bankai stolen. One of the Steinbrenners uses this Bankai against Yamamoto. Yamamoto beats the shit out of him, and he decides to end the war by killing Yhwach himself. And he finally uses his Bankai, which absorbs all the moisture in the Serete, making it deathly hot. And his blade has like a whole bunch of different modes to it, and it's just awesome. You have to read it. But unfortunately, he kills Yhwach, but it turns out it was just another Steinbrenner copying Yhwach. Yhwach comes in, kills him. So Ichigo arrives on the scene. He is of no help in this battle, and he's like, "So you're Ichigo Kurosaki, but you don't know what you are yet. So we're just gonna leave." So Ichigo or the Soul Reapers don't drive them off. They just walk away. They feel that they've done enough damage, and they just walk away. So yeah, Ichigo is heavily injured. Many Soul Reapers are dead or critically injured. Among them, Rukia, Renji, and Byakuya. Like, they're barely hanging on. And the remaining captains who are still alive and walking, Kyoraku gets his eye gouged out and he's missing part of an ear. And they all decide that there's something needs to be done, because if they come back again, they're gonna they're gonna die. Everyone's gonna die. Then we get an appearance by the Zero Squad. These guys were mentioned during the Turn Back the Pendulum arc, where we discovered the background of Kisuke Unohana and several of the advisors. Now, Squad Zero are supposedly the Royal Guard, those who protect the Soul King, the absolute ruler of the Soul Society. What was it? So, Squad Zero comes down, and we got some really freaky looking motherfuckers here. I don't even know all their names. I'm sorry, I don't know them by heart yet. And they were all exceptionally powerful. The reason why they didn't jump in to help out the Gota 13 is because their job is to watch over the Soul King. The Gota 13 is to watch over the Soul Society. So that's their purview. So they decide that in order to prepare for the war, they need to take Ichigo, Renji, Rukia, and Byakuya to heal in the upper realms, so that they can recover and they can train and they can get stronger for the upcoming war. And first off, they get taken to this little place helmed by one of the members of Squad Zero, who taught Retsu Unohana how to be a healer. So he's a better healer than she is, and he heals them all. And we actually get a nice shot of Rukia's firm and delicious ass. But anyway, what am I saying? Okay, Renji and Ichigo were the first to recover. So they move on to the next series, which is a fat but very pretty looking lady who feeds them soul food so they can recover and increase their overall spiritual power. Now, each member of Squad Zero are Soul Reapers who contributed something to the overall status of the Soul Society in general. The first guy created healing. The second lady created mod souls, or modified souls. The next guy they meet is the guy who creates Zanpakuto. He creates every single one in the entire series that has been introduced. And he's a really funky looking guy. So he takes Renji and Ichigo's Zanpakutos, breaks them, and then throws them into this pit where they have to find their own. They have to find their soul, their Zanpakuto spirits, and then reconquer them so they can be reforged into better weapons. Renji finds this easily. Ichigo doesn't. He fails miserably, and the guy's like, "You don't know yourself. You come back to me when you know yourself." So he flicks him away and back to the real world. And it's this time that Ichigo decides to learn more about his family. He goes up to his father and says, "You know what? I've been putting this off for a while, but I need to know about my mother and how it is that you're a Soul Reaper and how it is that my powers are so unique." He's like, "Okay, I'll tell you." Then we go into a flashback of how Ichigo's father, Ishin, met his mother, Misaki. Believe it or not, as we've all surmised, Ishin Kurosaki is not his real name. He's in fact a captain of Squad 10. And his real name is Ishin Shiba. And he is the head of the Shiba clan. And yes, that means that Kakaku and Ganju Shiba from the Soul Society arc are in fact his cousins. And this also explains the reason why Kaien Shiba, the former lieutenant of Squad 13 and Rukia's mentor, looked and acted so much like Ichigo. People thought he was just a reincarnation of him. It turns out they were relatives. I think it's either his cousin or his uncle. I can't remember. So Kaien was the captain of Squad 10. Ishin was the captain of Squad 10. Rangiku was his lieutenant, and his third seat was Toshiro. So anyway, he decides to investigate a mysterious hollow appearance in the real world. So he goes there, and he runs into a Quincy girl by the name of Misaki Kurosaki. It turns out to be not just a pure-blooded Quincy, but also slightly related to the Ishida family. So that means that Uryu and Ichigo are kind of distant cousins. So anyway, Ryukin, Uryu's father, who was a teenager by this time, liked Misaki, but she really didn't respond back. She gets attacked by a hollow, and she undergoes hollification. Now, this has all been a part of Aizen's plan. Aizen is watching this shit. It's like, I want to see where this goes. So, Kaien returns and helps her out with the help of Kisuke Urahara, and he says, well, in order to save her life and prevent her from being fully hollified, you have to stay in this Gigai for the rest of your life just to keep her powers at bay. And he's like, okay, sure. And he just leaves completely without letting anyone know. So he leaves the Soul Society and becomes basically human in his Gigai. He sticks around Misaki, they hang out, and eventually they fall in love and they have kids. And it turns out that Misaki, that Ichigo's was not to blame, even though he blames himself. It was nothing for him to blame for. But sorry, I'm getting fucked up. Now, this does bring up the question: if she was a Quincy, how come she didn't kill Fisher Tiger? When he killed Grand Fisher during that horrible night when she died. It turns out that Yhwach, that very same day, had awoken from his slumber and was drew all the Quincy's powers away from them, turning them into ordinary humans. So it's not that she couldn't. It's not that she didn't want to kill Grand Fisher to save Ichigo's life. She couldn't. She didn't have her powers that very night, and it cost her her life. So yeah, Ichigo is part human, part Soul Reaper, and part Quincy. Now he returns to Squad 0, finally understanding who he is, and he finally was able to pick out his Zanpakuto. It turns out that the Zanpakuto zangetsu that he's been using all these years was a fake. And that's why he said that he didn't know himself, because zangetsu was not created by this guy. He's like, this is not my work. This is a fake. And it turns out that this was all that his Soul Reaper powers were actually his Quincy powers manifesting in a way that would allow him to protect him. And Ichigo was like, I had something on my mind for a while now. Why is it that you, old man Zangetsu, is talking to the spirit of his Zanpakuto? Why do you look so much like Yhwach? And now that brought up a good question, because if you look at Yhwach and Zangetsu, they look just alike. And he's like, I'm just his manifestation of his powers, and I'm here to protect you. So finally, the guy reforges reforges Ichigo's Zanpakuto, and creates two of them. Two dual Zanpakuto, one representing his powers as a Soul Reaper, the other as powers as a Quincy. Now, while all this is going on, Kyoraku is named the new head captain. And his first order was like, we need to teach Kenpachi Saraki how to properly fight. And the Central 46 is like, no, that's wrong. We shouldn't teach them how to do that. Rah, 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 rah. But he's like, you have a better idea? We're getting fucked up out there. We need Kenpachi on our side. And what we need to do is have him trained by the first Kenpachi, Retsu Unohana. Or should I say, Yachiru Unohana. That's right. The soft-spoken but slightly threatening lady with a braid who heals people was the first Kenpachi, the first person to ever hold that title of the strongest in the Soul Society. Not also that he shares a first name with little Yachiru Kashajusi, Kenpachi's lieutenant. Now, this also brought up a good question. That means that those two, who have never been on screen together outside of filler, knew each other before they both came to the Soul Society. So anyway, they journeyed to the Maggot's Pit, like the prison of the Soul Society, to an area where no one would interrupt them. And it turns out that Unohana had a scar around her neck area that was given to her by a young Kenpachi, and she used her braid to hide it. And when she took off her braid, she turns into this psychopathic bitch. She's like, my scar hurt every time I heard your name. I heard you speak. And Kenpachi's like, hey, the scar you gave me hurts too. And they have a death match. And contrary to what the Bleach wiki says, it's not a match where they hate each other. There is no semblance of hate. In fact, this fight was more almost romantic in a way. In that he has admiration for her that borderlined on love. And he's like, you were the first person I ever admired. I wanted to fight like you. Everything that I do is because of you. The way I fight is because I mimicked how you fought. And it turns out the two of them did fight once, and only once, back when the Soul Society, when the Goto 13 was just started, and Unohana was actually one of the worst criminal in the history of the Soul Society, next to Aizen. And she was just an unstoppable killing machine, and her squad always found people for her to fight. Then she finds a young wild child with a stolen Zanpakuto, and this child was not only able to fight her equally, but he was able to scar her, and it renders him unconscious. He's like, wait for me, get stronger and wait for me. And so the two of them are fighting, and Kenpachi's actually crying as he's doing this because he sees her healing persona as a portrayal of who she really is. And she's like, you shouldn't have those kind of feelings for me. Like, I'm sorry. And as they fight, Kenpachi keeps passing out, and he's like, damn, she's so strong that I can't handle her. I just keep getting passed out. I must be insulting to her. But really, he's dying. Every time they fight, Kenpachi gets killed by Unohana, and she brings him back to life, and he comes back. And every time he thinks he's passing out, he's actually been brought back from the dead. And she notes that ever since that first fight, he's been subconsciously limiting himself. Even now, when he's fighting more freely, he has been limiting his own strength and power to fight more like Unohana. And every time she kills him, he comes back a little bit stronger. And each time she's like, it's going to get to the point where he's going to get stronger than me. And then he's going to kill me. So she even uses her Bankai, which allows her to heal from damage to allow her to fight longer. But eventually, Kenpachi just comes back so much that he gets stronger than her and kills her. And as she's bleeding to death, he holds her in his arms and he says, thank you. And she's like, you're the only man to have ever made me happy. And she presumably dies. So anyway, as for Ichigo's friends, Chad and Kisuke and Orihime are trapped in Hueco and apparently they've been joined by some Arancars. And believe it or not, Uryu has joined the Steinrenners, apparently as Yhwach's heir apparent. So anyway, the Steinrenners return to the Soul Society. Just as Renji, Byakuya, and Rukia finish their training with Squad Zero, and the rematches are impressive as even though Toshiro loses his Bankai, he retrains his Shikai to make it stronger than his Bankai and retakes his Bankai. Komamura actually pulls out his own heart in a ritual to turn himself human to get more power for the fight. Rukia fights the guy who almost killed her brother, and she learns that she can manipulate her body temperature to bring it down to absolute zero, and at one point uses her Bankai, which flash freezes everything around her. But and she basically, well, Ichigo's Bankai makes him look like his Zanpakuto spirit. Rukia's is just the same. It makes her look like Sonema Shirayuki, down to her appearance, just looking all beautiful and shit. But yeah, Renji gets a new Bankai, well, a modified Bankai, because apparently Zanpakuto don't really tell their owner their names unless for some reason they just feel that they've earned the right to learn their true name, and Renji learns the true name of Zabimaru and thus gets a new Bankai that allows him to fight better. So later on, Yachiru actually fights. We learned her Shikai, which is ridiculous, and he fights this guy who can literally make anything he imagines real, which makes him a perfect first opponent for Kenpachi, who not only unveils his new strength, but unveils his new Zanpakuto, which now he knows the name of, and cuts a meteor in half. Awesome. And this guy's like, well, I just have to imagine myself stronger than you. He tries to make himself stronger, but his body literally gives out because Kenpachi is literally stronger than this guy can imagine. So anyway, the battle is going back and forth. The Steinrenners are fighting hard. The Soul Reapers are fighting harder. Then Ichigo makes his appearance, and he's kicking ass every sort of which way until the Steinrenners actually make it to the Court of Pure Souls, to the higher courts, where they face off against various members of Squad Zero. These fights are good and inventive. I recommend you read them. And so they manage to kill the Soul King. And after doing that, all things go to shit. Reality just starts breaking down. And then Jushiro Ukitake, apparently we found out more about his sickness, that he used to have black hair, but he was very sickly as a child. So his parents, being nobles, allowed the Soul King, a piece of the Soul King, to reside within him to keep him alive. And so he releases that part of him just to keep reality from being destroyed. But I think it kind of kills him. Then Kyoraku does the unthinkable and releases Aizen. Even though he's strapped to the chair and is only allowed a certain amount of movement, he helps out, and they prepare themselves to head back to the upper tier of Squad Zero's home, I guess. And Ichigo and his friends head there. The remaining captains and Soul Reapers and high-level guys make it there as well. So right now, they're fighting in the streets of the new Steinrenner Empire, and things are just getting hectic. So that's just a basic cliff notes about what's been happening in the world of Bleach. But yeah, as for will I ever do live reactions to it, but I'm saying I'm not discounting it because it's still interesting enough for me to read, but unfortunately because of how he paces it, it's just going to be silence most of the time because of long stretches of nothing really happening, and then long exposition but nothing really happening. It just you have to have at least 3 or 4 chapters of the story to actually have anything going on. So I'm just saying that it would be pretty boring episodes for you to watch. Me just reacting to like something that only amounts to 10 seconds in the actual fight. So there's that. So I'm not saying I'm discounting it, but I'm not saying don't expect it from me either. So it may happen, it may not happen. Just stay tuned. So anyway, though, that's my video about my status on Bleach and whether or not I'll do reaction videos to their chapters. If you like what you see, link, comment, subscribe below. Got any questions, comments, or just want to talk about Bleach in general? Leave them below. I'll get back to you. Want to support the channel? Hit that like button or click an advertisement. They all help out. Or you know what to do. So until next time, it's been shintigercurl, that dude in the straw hat, saying good day and goddamn Rukia's ass.